I've discovered a firm foundation in the truth of who I am, and that's my cornerstone. The services, classes, and reading the daily word every day here at Unity have helped me to evolve my spiritual consciousness. Our guest speaker today is Dieter Randolph. Dieter has been a minister for 30 years and is one of our favorite speakers. Dieter is a dynamic speaker who has come to remind us who we are in our spiritual evolution and to help us use that beautiful, powerful, and meaningful truth to make a difference. He is the son and grandson of a line of ministers. You might know his dad, Reverend Randy, who was our first minister here at Unity of Palm Harbor, and he still comes to church today, and I'm very proud that he's here. Dieter says, the spiritual experience can't be contained in a building or a doctrine. It just doesn't happen once a week. There's more to it because there's more to you. Dieter has a special announcement about how to transform your Tuesday evenings coming up, so listen for that. Please help us to welcome Dieter Randolph back to Unity of Palm Harbor.
So, a month and a day ago, I became a grandfather. Yeah, no, that's... I did almost nothing, but thank you for the applause anyway. I appreciate that. And I learned something really important, something I had kind of guessed at, but I didn't know for sure until it happened to me. And that is, I hope I'm not letting the cat out of the bag here, that is that being a grandparent is a trick. It's a trick. I don't have to do anything. Not at all. It's easy. When I hold my grandson, when my wife holds our grandson, the kid goes to sleep immediately. It's like a magic trick. Grandma's magic. Grandpa's magic. How do you do it? And the trick is, because I don't got to do anything. It's appropriate for the parents to be worried about any number of things. Is the kid hot, cold, warm, wet, dry, something? Is it time to eat? Is it time to have a change of clothes? Is it time to start talking about college? Is it time for these things? And any number of other things. And I remember a lot of those things from being a parent myself. But I don't got to think about any of those things. It's just me and this amazing kid. And I'm in that moment, man. I've taken all kinds of mindfulness classes and all of that stuff about be here now. Nothing. Hold your grandkid. Magic. And the kid goes to sleep. And I don't, because it's too good. I don't want to miss a minute of it. And I think to myself, there's a lesson in that. In a world where we are told that success means pushing real hard, getting your way in one way or another. In a world that says me first is the way to do it, and my job, whether it's a physical thing or a financial thing, or even a well-meaning spiritual thing, where the job of my prayer time is to impose more of my ego on the world. Let me see what I can do to get what I want. What are the good books where I can manifest what I want and impose more me on all of this stuff? In a world where pushing seems to be the mode of the day, it occurs to me that so often the real spiritual moment, or at least the one that gets the kid to go to sleep, is just listening. I have no agenda. I just want to rock my grandkid. And as a result, he's got no pressure and he goes to sleep. Magic. What if life is like that? Just saying. Let me put that another way. We can go categorical imperative. What if everybody in the world does the things that we do, right? So what does the world look like when everybody's pushing real hard, trying to get their way all the time, trying to get to the head of the line, trying to have their ego be the most important thing going on? What does that look like? Well, you've got television, you've seen it. What does the world look like where you and me and everybody else just takes a moment to go, what have you got to show me? And I am just here in this moment with you right now. What is this? What does the world look like? You and I each have a choice about what kind of world we make together. But I'm not telling you anything that you don't already know. We've all heard that before. Think of the times in your life where whatever it was for you, think of the times in your life where it worked. I have been doing this a very long time, folks, and I have not heard a single story. All of the time that I've been talking to people and praying with people and thinking through these things with people and teaching classes and taking classes and doing all of the stuff, I have never heard a story of, you know what, I got everybody to do what I wanted and it was just the best thing everybody wanted. It just worked so well. But I have heard plenty of stories, and you have heard plenty of stories because you have told plenty of stories about how, the thing happened, whether because it was so good or because it was so weird, that I just had to get out of the way of it. And it just worked. What does it feel like when you fall in love? What does it feel like when you experience art, truth, beauty, the thing? It always feels like a cosmic getting out of the way. Spirituality is the science of getting out of the way. Oh, that's different, isn't it? But like I said, we know this. Everybody knows how beautiful it is to try to not be a control freak. Everybody knows how amazing it is to not be into control, to give up control. And it's something that we all talk about. There are so many books and so many classes and so many things about getting out of the way of this. And I just got to give up control and I got to trust and I got to step out on faith and do the thing, Everybody talks about it. Hard to do. And it's hard to do culturally because of all the pressure that we talked about. But that's not really why. And it's something that I think about a lot because people come to me a lot and say, how do I do this? You talk about getting out of God's way. You talk about giving up control. How do you do it? And I've had a lot of theories. Usually I tell people, well, just try harder, which is a funny thing to say when you think about it. Read another book, take another class, pray a little more, you'll get the hang of it. And sometimes that works okay, But like 3 days ago, I was rocking my grandson to sleep. And it occurred to me that there's a very simple reason why you can't give up control. It's because you can't give up something that you never had. That's the deal. You can't give up something you never had. And the idea that I've got this control that I am going to relinquish is all ego stuff. And that's a control move too. I'm going to give you this control that I have. Come on. I'm holding this helpless child who is determining the agenda of my day. And the only way I can be a part of that team is to give up any desire for it to go any specific way. It's a release upon a release upon a release. You can't give up something that you don't have. You don't have control. You know what it feels like to fall in love. You don't have control. You know what it feels like when your life works. You don't have control. That, sorry to say, God's job. And that's why those prayers of God, here's what you're going to do for me because I've been good. Or, please do this thing for me because I'm no good. Either way, you're not fooling God and you're not fooling you. And that's why they don't work. It comes from a different place. We can't give up control, but what we can give up is the idea of control because that's where we change things, is what goes on in there. Give up the idea that you're in charge of this and watch how amazingly, powerfully, beautifully life starts to work. You ever think about how in the Bible God talks to different people in different ways? You know what I mean? Sometimes there's a burning bush situation. Sometimes there's a booming voice. Sometimes there's a still small voice. Sometimes you speak with spirit in a dream. Sometimes the angel shows up and says, guess what? Different things for different people. Well, God is always God, right? So what's different? Great question. Thank you for asking. What's different is us. The way that it works is Spirit will speak to us, Spirit will speak to you and me in the way that we allow ourselves to be ready for. The long way around is saying you get what you're ready for. If your concept of God is very limited to something like we might call coincidence, well, you're going to get a lot of coincidences until you get over it. You get what you're ready for. And so the job that we have is not to try and make God show up. Think about how funny that is. In a world where God's already perfect, God's already here. The word unity means oneness, one presence and one power, right? So what are you doing trying to make God show up with your prayers? How odd is that? Can you imagine being on a date with someone who loves you and spending the whole dinner going, I don't know if you're going to stick around. What do I got to do to attract you? I'm here. I already ordered breadsticks. What do you want? It's creepy. It's weird. And it messes things up. Our prayer time should not be trying to get God to show up. Our prayer time should not be trying to attract something that's already here. That's odd. God's here. So it should not be about trying to make something happen as much as it is about trying to get ready for what is. Spirituality is about openness versus agenda. I'm going to say that again because it's important. Spirituality is about openness versus agenda. Watch what happens when you get your ego stuff out of the way and learn how to listen. Our job as spiritual people is to cultivate readiness. Sound good? The way that works is to look at your life, look at your church, look at your relationships, look at your work, look at your stuff, and ask this question: what does this make me ready for? Because on a spiritual level, there are absolutely no surprises. 100% of what happens to you is what you were ready for what happened to you. You may not always know what you're making yourself ready for. That's why we ask the question, what does this conversation make me ready for? If all I'm doing is talking about how the world is a lousy place, am I making myself ready for happy? Or am I making myself right? You know? You get what you're ready for. No surprises on a spiritual level. So what is this relationship making me ready for? What is this life making me ready for? What is this moment making me ready for? And an important follow-up question, is it something that I actually want? You get to decide. And like I said, we talk to God in the way that we're ready for. So very few people are ready for burning shrubbery. For most of us, it's a very still, very small whisper of a voice. One of the ways you can start to feel this, and this is right out of Lessons in Truth, that class that I'm going to be teaching in a week from Tuesday, ask for it by name. One of the things that we talk about in that book is the idea that for a lot of people, the place where we leave a little bit of room for God to talk to us is in the secret desires of our heart. Ask yourself, what do I want? What do I want? And after a while, you get past the quick things. I would like a sandwich. Well, that's fine, but let's move on. I would like to get my way. Okay, I get it. Let's move on. Why do you want that? And 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 before too long, you get to a place where it's less of a material need and more of something like a calling. I want those things because I want love, for example. Do that archaeology of your desires. See where your desires and dreams overlap and extrapolate. And you will start to realize that, wait a minute, I want something that I didn't experience. You can have a terrible childhood and yet know what a good one would be. You can have a life that feels loveless and yet you know that you want love. Well, where did that come from? You start to realize that there is someone else, let's say, putting something in there. And that's where you start to find your point of contact. Do some archaeology. All of the things that people do about religion, you know, well, what does this story mean about the mythology of this and the story of that and the scripture of this? What does it mean? Take all of those tools and point them inward. In other words, what are the stories that you tell yourself? Think about it with me. What are the stories that I tell myself? Because just like the stories that power every great culture, every religious tradition, every country, everything, just like those stories, your story that you tell yourself will become your experience. And for some people, the story is, well, I'm no good because of this thing that happened to me. I don't deserve love because this one time in second grade I said something really ugly to Miss Smithers. You know. That kind of thing. People tell themselves all kinds of stories, and I think a lot of people don't know that they're allowed to write new ones. Well, guess what? By the power vested in me as me, make a new story. Allow yourself to tell one that fits the life you want to have. Allow yourself to tell one that fits what you have going on in your heart. Allow yourself to grow in your storytelling, because a story isn't anything until you tell the story. A life isn't anything until you share it. You know? Tell yourself a different story and ask yourself, just like we would ask about any religious tradition when we're talking about Scripture, for example, what does it mean? What does your story mean? When our kids were small, they would come to us, because back then they thought we knew what we were talking about. They would come to us with their dreams, you know. Last night I dreamt this happened and that happened. And at the beginning, we were very serious parents, probably a little too serious. We'd get books about dream interpretation. You get on the internet. Don't go on the internet, but you can. This means this. And we figured out that pretty quickly, one book says that this thing means this. Another one says it means something completely different. You get on the internet and it means you have Legionnaire's disease or something. It's everything different. We begin to realize that it's all subjective. And so we started asking our children very simple questions about their dreams. This happened and this happened and this happened. Really? Well, how did you feel about it? That's way more telling than what some questionable expert says. How did you feel about your story? The one that happened at night, or the one that you're telling with everything that you carry yourself? How do you feel about that? And question 2, what are you going to do about it? Because it's all about action. You know, it seems to me that Jesus didn't spend an awful lot of time telling people what to believe. I know there's a lot of Christians that will tell you what to believe. But Jesus didn't spend a lot of time telling you what to believe, did he? Think about it. He spent a lot of time telling you what to do. Blessed are they who go and make peace, for example. Go do this thing. Do unto others. Perhaps you've heard that one. It's on Facebook. Go do a thing. And in fact, he said, you know, it's very simple. You can sum up all of these huge teachings and all of this doctrine and all of these thousands of years of tradition and all of the rules that people make with one word. How do you keep all the commandments? Jesus said, love. Right? You know this one. The gospel in one word. There's a song. And he said, I call you friends. No fancy titles. He didn't say, I must now be the grand poobah of this church. Nothing fancy, because who cares? People call me Reverend Dieter, and I say, Dieter's fine. You either listen to me or you don't. It has nothing to do with the certificates on my wall. Who cares? He said, people will know you're part of this by, do you remember this part? By the special outfit? By where the tithe check goes? By the secret handshake. They'll know by your love. That's the thing. That's the whole thing. And sort of begs the question, okay, well then what is love? Baby, don't hurt me. I can't do that without doing that. What does that mean? You know, I get it. It's a fair question. And I think a lot of different people have a lot of different ideas about love, because a lot of people have a lot of different experiences of love. I get it. But again, ask yourself, what are your various definitions of love? What does that Venn diagram look like? When you're honest, when you're following it, when you're truthful with yourself, when you're really in that moment, what does it feel like? And different people have different experiences, different people have different ideas, different people have different stories. But one thing in that great overlapping and extrapolation that goes on is that no matter what the particular moment is, you know it's love when you get up and do something. Love is a verb, right? Mr. Rogers says that love is a word like struggle. It's a word you think about in that way. If it's love, you do something. You sing a song, you write a song, you buy flowers, you do the thing. If it's love, you feel it and you move. They call it falling in love because you're not even moving under your own steam, you know? That's how you know. How do I know it's God talking to me? Did you get up? Did you move your butt? Did you do a thing? Did you help somebody? Good bet. How do I know it's love? Because love is a power that moves. So your job, my job, our job is to learn how to listen. Jesus says, God knows what you ask before you ask it. So kind of, why are you asking? Paraphrasing. What if it's not about that? What if my job in spirituality is to learn how to listen? What if my job in all this is not manifesting, not attracting, because where am I getting it from if God's here? What if my job is to be ready for something? What if I'm supposed to just get myself ready in every way I can for a world that works for everybody? To get myself ready for the ability to just genuinely tell the truth to somebody. Whatever it is that you're working on, what do I need to do to get myself ready for that? No matter what has happened before, this is my choice. I want you to know, no matter what story you have told yourself, that you are not your past. You are not what you used to do. You are not what other people have said about you. You are not the labels good or bad. You are what your dreams combine to make you. And you are what you do about it. So do something good. Tell somebody you love them. Be there for somebody. Set somebody free. Because after all, freedom is a choice. Thank you.